Welcome to Stories for Sleep. If you are listening to this video as night has fallen, when the lights have softened, and the movements of the day are beginning to settle, then you are in the right place. Stories for Sleep was created not to make you think more, but to help you rest more deeply through stories that are slow, gentle, and safe. Tonight's video brings you the most relaxing facts about cats. Cats are animals that live very close to humans, yet they follow a rhythm of life entirely their own, unhurried, observant, and capable of deep, unforced sleep. Simply watching a cat curled up and resting peacefully is often enough for our own bodies to begin letting go, as if the unconscious were recognizing an ancient signal of safety. At Stories for Sleep, we do not tell stories for you to remember, nor do we share facts for you to learn. Everything here is guided gently, slow enough that you do not need to focus, warm enough that you can feel supported. The stories about cats in this video are not meant to be analyzed, but to accompany you into sleep. Right now, you do not need to do anything at all. Simply lie, still listen, and allow the very slow rhythm of a cat's life to carry you softly into the night. How many nights have you lain down with a tired body while your mind remained awake? Small thoughts, following one another, not loud but persistent enough to keep you suspended between waking and sleep. In moments like these, what you may need is not more information nor a solution, but a slower rhythm to lean into. And that is when we meet the cat. Cats are among the very few animals that live alongside humans yet have never fully belonged to them. They move lightly, as if unwilling to disturb the world. Sleep often but without haste. Observe longer than they react. In the quiet presence of a cat, there is something deeply familiar to our unconscious, as if they remind us of a part of ourselves that has been forgotten in an overly fast-paced life. From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, human beings do not live by consciousness alone, but are also guided by deep symbols that lie beneath awareness. And the cat is one such symbol, a creature that walks between light and shadow, between wakefulness and rest, between independence and attachment. It is no coincidence that simply watching a sleeping cat can cause our own breathing to slow. In this video, you will be gently guided through the most relaxing facts about cats, not to learn more, but to feel. From the way cats sleep, to the way they listen to the world, to the way they exist, without demanding anything, everything carries a distinct rhythm. The rhythm of permission. Permission for the body to rest. Permission for the mind to let go. Permission for night to be night. You do not need to concentrate. You do not need to remember anything. Just listen as you might sit beside a cat curled up in a warm corner. No advice, no judgment, only presence. Because sometimes in order to sleep, we simply need to relearn how to be still, the way cats do every night. Part 1. A creature living between two worlds. There are beings that enter human life so naturally that we assume we already understand them. Yet the longer we live beside them, the more carefully we observe, the more we realize that a gentle distance has always remained. The cat is such a creature, familiar enough to appear in the quietest corners of a home, yet distant enough that no one can truly say they have fully grasped it. Throughout the long history of humanity, cats have existed as a parallel presence. They did not arrive alongside humans through conquest, nor were they shaped by forced domestication. Cats approached humans in their own way, stayed when they felt safe, and left when they needed to. It is precisely this freedom that makes cats such a unique species. They belong to human life, yet are never entirely possessed by it. When we look at a cat lying quietly by a window, something difficult to name appears. It does not feel like observing a wild animal, yet it is also not the same as looking at a creature fully under human control. Cats stand on a delicate boundary, the boundary between wildness and domestication. In their relaxed posture, there is still a quiet alertness. In their familiarity, there remains enough distance to preserve their essence. On a deeper level, it is this position between two worlds that allows cats to touch the human mind so directly. From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, human beings do not live only in the world of consciousness, but are deeply influenced by archetypal images residing within the unconscious. These images do not require rational explanation because they operate through feeling, and the cat is one such image. Cats are not loud. They do not need to perform in order to be seen. Their presence is often so light that we only realize it once they have already been there for some time. Within this quietness exists a very different kind of communication, not through words but through rhythm. Cats communicate by lying down when the world feels safe, and by lifting their ears when something changes. Between silence and communication, cats do not choose a side. They live in the space in between where information is transmitted without sound. This quality creates a deeply soothing feeling for a tired human mind. When listening to stories about cats at night, the mind is not stimulated by rapid speech or urgent ideas. Instead, it is invited to notice subtle signals that are already familiar to the unconscious. In this space, the listener does not need to react. They only need to be present the way a cat is present, in a room not occupying space, not creating pressure, simply being there. Cats also live between rest and vigilance. They can sleep many hours a day, yet their sleep is unlike human sleep. It is light fragmented, always ready to shift into wakefulness if needed. This reflects a very ancient rhythm, the rhythm of a being that knows how to rest without losing its sensitivity to the world. In modern life, humans often equate rest with loss of control. Cats demonstrate another possibility, resting while remaining safe. This image has a profound effect on those listening before sleep, because most sleep difficulties do not come from a lack of tiredness, but from a mind that does not dare to release vigilance. When seeing or hearing about a creature capable of resting without controlling everything, the human unconscious begins to relearn this ability, not through command but through quiet resonance. Cats live between wildness and domestication, yet they are not torn apart. They are not a tense compromise between two extremes. On the contrary, cats show that it is possible to exist fully in the middle, wild in instinct, yet close enough to share living space, independent in choice, yet capable of attachment. This balance is what makes cats such a powerful image in the human psyche. When speaking of cats as creatures living between two worlds, the text does not aim to explain behavior, nor to instruct how to understand cats. Its deeper purpose is to create a psychologically safe space where the listener can feel that living between states is natural, that one does not always need clarity, decision, or reaction. There are moments when it is enough to be in between waking and sleeping, between thinking and letting go. At night, as light fades and the outside world grows quieter, the human mind also enters a between-two-world state, no longer fully awake, but not yet deeply asleep. This state is delicate, easily disrupted by strong stimulation, and cats, with their slow and silent rhythm, become ideal guides for this moment. Beginning the text with the image of a cat is therefore not a random choice. It is a gentle invitation. Step away from the need to understand and step into the experience of feeling. When the listener is placed in this space, curiosity arises not as stimulation, but as openness. Curiosity gentle enough not to quicken the heart. Curiosity safe enough that the mind does not need to defend itself. Cats do not teach humans how to live. They do not deliver moral messages. They simply exist, true to their nature. And in the context of listening before sleep, this offers something deeply valuable: permission for the listener to be themselves without effort. As the opening section comes to a close, what remains is not knowledge about cats, but a very light sensation, the feeling of being in a space that does not demand, a space where understanding everything matters less than being still. And within that space, the body begins to soften, the breath slows, and the mind becomes ready to move into deeper parts of the story. Cats, creatures living between two worlds, thus become the first doorway, not loudly, not forcefully, just open enough for the listener to step through, carrying gentle curiosity and the sense of safety needed to continue drifting more slowly into the next part. Having recognized cats as beings who live between worlds, between wildness and domestication, between silence and communication, between rest and alertness, a very gentle question naturally arises. How did such a creature choose to live near humans? Not through leashes, not through commands, not through submission. The meeting between cats and humans, when listened to slowly enough, seems to unfold according to a different rhythm, the rhythm of choice and respected distance. Part 2. The meeting between cats and humans. The relationship between cats and humans did not begin with a dramatic act of domestication. There was no ritual of conquest, no moment marking ownership. Instead, there was a sequence of very small, very practical, very quiet events sufficient for two species to coexist without force. Humans began storing food. Grain was preserved through seasons. Granaries appeared. And with them came mice, not because anyone invited them, but because a new environment had quietly formed. Where there is food, creatures arrive. Where creatures arrive, predators follow. Wild cats at that time were not domesticated by humans. They discovered a safer place to live. This is a crucial point. Cats did not come because humans called them. They came because the conditions were suitable. They hunted prey. Humans lost less grain. Both benefited without any formal agreement. The relationship was not based on possession, but on parallel advantage. Over time, cats that were calmer, those not frightened by human presence, remained longer. These individuals survived better and reproduced more. Not because humans selected them, but because they chose to stay. This process unfolded slowly across generations, long enough to become familiar, yet never long enough to erase their wild nature entirely. Seen this way, cats are not pets in the traditional sense. They were not created to serve. They accompany. And this companionship always includes a clear right, the right of approach and the right of withdrawal. Even today, when cats live in warm apartments, this right remains intact. They come closer when they wish and leave when they need to, not out of indifference, but out of autonomy. On a psychological level, this relationship touches something very deep within humans, the longing for connection without possession. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, the most enduring relationships are not built on sameness or control, but on respect for difference. Jung wrote in The Relations Between the Ego and the Unconscious, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The meeting between cats and humans is such a reaction. Humans learn to live beside a creature that is not easily predictable. Cats learn to live near a species that is crowded and noisy. Both change without losing their identity. This explains why cats, unlike many other animals, do not trade freedom for protection. They do not need guidance. They do not need commands. Their presence beside humans is a choice renewed each day. And it is this voluntary repetition that creates a very special sense of trust. For listeners, before sleep, this story gently softens the ego in a subtle way. Much nighttime exhaustion comes from relationships strained by expectation and control. Hearing about a bond built on mutual benefit and the right to withdraw allows the mind to loosen its grip. Jung emphasized that the unconscious responds more strongly to symbolic images than to logical arguments. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, "The unconscious is not merely reactive, it has a creative character." The cat-human relationship, when told slowly, becomes a living symbol of non-coercive attachment, an attachment the unconscious recognizes as safe. Safe because no one is forced to stay. Safe because presence does not need to be justified. Even today, cats retain their right of approach and withdrawal. They remain close when humans are calm and leave when the space grows tense. Not out of selfishness, but because they are sensitive to rhythm, the rhythm of emotion, sound, and energy. Cats read this rhythm quickly, and when it no longer fits, they choose distance. At night, as the listener searches for sleep, this story whispers an essential message: you too have the right to withdraw. To withdraw from demanding thoughts, from roles that require constant reaction, from holding the world in your hands. Like a cat, you may stay with what feels safe and step away from what feels too loud. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, the individual cannot exist without society, but society cannot exist without individuals. Cats remind humans of this balance, accompanying without dissolving, being close without losing oneself. And within that balance, the nervous system finds a place to rest. Thus, the meeting between cats and humans is not merely a biological or historical account. It is a gentle lesson about relationship, a lesson not taught but lived across thousands of years. And when retold in a sleep-guiding rhythm, it helps listeners loosen the belief that all attachment must be tight. As this section closes, what lingers is not information about mice or granaries, but a very light feeling, the sense that closeness does not require possession. That one can be near without being held. And this feeling opens the doorway to deeper parts of the story, parts where the body begins to trust that it can rest without fear of loss. Cats do not belong to humans. And precisely because of that, when they choose to stay, their presence feels warmer, quieter, and safe enough to continue drifting slowly into the next part. When we understand that the relationship between cats and humans is built not on possession but on choice and respected distance, our attention naturally shifts. We stop seeing cats as a role within human life and begin to see them as complete beings, existing with their own logic, rhythm, and structure. And when this attention slows enough, grows quiet enough, we begin to realize that what makes cats truly special lies not only in their behavior or temperament, but deeper still within their very bodies. Part 3. The cat's body, a subtle biological machine. A cat's body is not a random collection of cute features. It is the result of a long, precise, and uncompromising evolutionary process. Every part has a reason to exist. Every movement carries the memory of thousands of generations of silent hunters. And what is remarkable is this: all of that precision is wrapped in a soft, quiet form that makes humans easily forget they are standing near an extraordinarily sophisticated biological machine. The purr is one of the clearest expressions of this subtlety. When a cat purrs, the sound is not merely a signal of communication. It is a vibration that spreads through the entire body. Studies have shown that the frequency of purring falls within a range that can support tissue healing, reduce stress, and stabilize the nervous system. But more importantly for the cat, purring is also a form of self-soothing. Cats purr when being stroked, but they also purr when in pain, when frightened, when they need to keep themselves steady in an uncertain world. On a psychological level, this is a very powerful image. A being that does not wait for the world to calm it, but generates a calming rhythm from within. From the perspective of Carl Gustav Jung, the psyche is capable of self-regulation when it is not obstructed. Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the psyche is a self-regulating system. The purr of a cat, when listened to at night, is not just a sound. It is a very gentle reminder that stability does not always come from outside. Sometimes it is a small, steady vibration that the body knows how to create on its own. A cat's vision also bears the mark of precision. Cats are not designed to see in complete darkness, but to see most clearly at twilight, the moment between day and night. This reflects their position between two worlds. The feline retina prioritizes movement and contrast over detail. Cats do not need to see every shape clearly. They need to notice change. For humans, especially before sleep, this carries a deep symbolic meaning. Twilight is the moment when consciousness begins to soften and the unconscious starts to speak. Jung emphasized that transitional phases are where the psyche is most active. In Symbols of Transformation, he wrote, "Transitions are moments of intense psychic activity. Cats with vision, optimized for this transitional moment, become creatures of the threshold between waking and dreaming. between light and dark. When listening to this, the listener does not need to understand it intellectually. The body recognizes that this is the appropriate rhythm for slowing down. A cat's whiskers form an extraordinarily refined spatial sensing system. Each whisker is connected to deep neural receptors, allowing the cat to read the surrounding space without physical contact. Through their whiskers, cats know whether they can pass through a narrow opening, sense changes in airflow, and detect nearby objects. What is striking is that they do not need to see in order to know. They feel. In Jungian psychology, this is a clear image of intuition, a way of knowing that does not rely on reasoning. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "Intuition is perception via the unconscious." A cat's body operates largely through intuition, and when the listener encounters this image, in a half-awake, half-asleep state, a similar part within themselves is gently activated not to act, but to release rational control. A cat's ears can rotate independently, capturing high-frequency sounds beyond the range of human hearing. But the key is not range, it is selectivity. Cats do not respond to every sound. They respond only to what carries meaning. In a world filled with noise, this ability is essential for survival. On a symbolic level, it reminds humans that not every stimulus requires a response. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "The capacity for selective attention is essential to psychic health." When listening to this at night, the listener may without effort begin to ignore unnecessary inner noise. Thoughts may still arise, but they are no longer heard in the same way. The cat's spine is a biological marvel. It allows cats to rotate mid-air, land on all 4 feet, and adjust posture in an instant. This flexibility is not for display, it is for immediate adaptation. Cats do not fight gravity, they cooperate with it. Psychologically, this reflects an attitude very different from the rigidity of modern human life. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "Adaptation is not imitation, but a creative process. A cat's body does not mimic its environment, it dialogues with it." And when listening to this before sleep, the listener may begin to allow their own body to adapt to rest rather than resist it through effort. A cat's paws, with their soft pads, retractable claws, and loosely connected shoulders and collarbones, allow for silent movement. Cats do not make sound disappear, they absorb it. Their movement does not tear through space, it glides. This is a deeply sleep-inducing image. Many people struggle with sleep not because their bodies are not tired, but because their minds move too loudly. When the image of a cat moving softly is repeated long enough, the unconscious begins to relearn how to move without disturbance, even in thought. The message of this part, therefore, is not cats are cute. The message is this: cats are precise. So precise that every detail serves a rhythm balanced between action and rest. And it is this precision, nothing excessive, nothing lacking, that creates the beauty humans perceive as gentleness. Jung once said in The Symbolic Life, "Nature is not a moral phenomenon, it is a living one." A cat's body was not created to please anyone, it was created to live. And when humans at night listen to the story of that body, something very gentle happens. The human body begins to remember how to live before it was stretched by schedules and control. As this section closes, the listener does not need to remember every biological detail. What remains is a spreading sensation, the sense that stillness is not the absence of movement, but movement in the right rhythm. And within that rhythm, the body begins to let go, the way a cat lets itself sink into light sleep, without defense, without force, ready to drift into the next part, deeper, slower, and quieter still. Having moved through the cat's body as a subtle biological machine, where every movement has its reason, every structure serves a slow and precise form of life, our attention begins to shift naturally. The question is no longer how the cat was made, but how the cat speaks to the world. And then we realize something very light yet very deep. Cats do not speak in the way humans understand. They whisper with their entire bodies, and only those who are slow enough can hear. Part 4. The silent language of cats. The language of cats. Cats is not built on sound, but on signals. Small, delicate signals easily missed if the mind is in a hurry. And precisely because of this, their language reaches directly into the unconscious, where words are not required for understanding. Scent is the first layer of this language. The pheromones cats leave behind are not meant to convey complex information, but to mark safety. When a cat rubs its cheek or presses its head against objects or people, this is not an act of begging or affection-seeking. It is a very clear, very calm statement. This place is familiar. This place is not a threat. In the world of cats, safety is not confirmed by words, but by scent, a form of memory more enduring than sound. Psychologically, this has a powerful sleep-inducing effect. Humans also store feelings of safety in a similar way, though they often do not notice it. There are places, people, and moments that cause our breath to slow without any clear reason. Jung described this as the unconscious responding to familiar signals. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, "The unconscious reacts to symbols, not to words. The scent of a cat, when described at night, becomes a symbol of belonging without explanation, without persuasion. Cheek rubbing and head pressing form another layer of communication, even more subtle. This is not an act of possession, but an act of sharing safe territory. The cat is not saying, 'This is mine,' but rather, 'You are within a space I feel is safe.' This difference is crucial. It does not create pressure. It creates an invitation. For listeners, before sleep, this image carries a gentle message. You do not need to do anything to be accepted. You only need to be present quietly, honestly. And that sense of being invited in dissolves many invisible tensions. One of the most well-known feline signals is the slow blink. In the wild, closing one's eyes is a vulnerable act. Only when a cat feels completely safe will it allow itself to do so in another's presence. Thus, the slow blink is not a random cute gesture. It is a declaration of trust. Symbolically, this is a very powerful moment. It says, "I no longer need to watch you." For the human unconscious, this is the deepest signal of safety. Jung emphasized that a sense of safety is the foundation upon which the psyche can let go. In The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, he wrote, "Only when the psyche is at rest can transformation occur." When the listener imagines a cat slowly blinking in the night, their body without instruction begins to mirror this. The eyelids grow heavier, observation softens, and sleep finds an opening. The tail whiskers and posture of a cat form an instant communication system. There is no concealment, no long-term strategy. Wherever emotion goes, the body reflects it. This is a kind of honesty very different from that of humans, where emotions are often suppressed, modified, or delayed to remain appropriate. In Jungian psychology, the separation between feeling and expression is the source of much tension. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Cats do not create substitutes. They do not hide. And it is precisely this continuity that makes their presence strangely soothing, not because they make us happy, but because they do not require us to guess." Interestingly, the familiar meow is not a natural social language between cats. It is a learned language developed specifically to communicate with humans. Cats adjust their sounds to suit human ears, just as they adjust distance and behavior when living alongside us. On a deeper level, this reflects a form of gentle adaptability. Cats do not lose their silent language. They simply add another channel when needed. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "Adaptation is not the loss of one's nature, but the widening of its expression." For listeners before sleep, this matters deeply. It says you do not need to abandon your deeper self to communicate with the world. You only add a layer when needed. And at night you are allowed not to use that layer. The silent language of cats teaches a rare lesson in modern life. Not everything needs to be spoken. Some emotions only need to be acknowledged. Some states only need permission to exist. When everything is not forced into words, the nervous system can rest. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. Part 4 fully inhabits this spirit. It offers no conclusions, urges no action. It simply creates space for listening, not with the ears but with the whole body. When this part is told slowly enough, the listener stops trying to understand cats. They begin to listen the way cats listen, selectively, subtly, without reacting to every stimulus. And within this small shift, sleep draws closer. The silent language of cats thus becomes not just a topic, but an experience of slowing down enough to notice what has always been there, but often overlooked. An experience of not speaking, not explaining, not responding. As this section closes, what lingers is not knowledge about pheromones or tail positions. What remains is a very light feeling. The sense that you do not need to express yourself tonight. You may be still, as cats are still, and in that stillness the body begins to drift slower, deeper, ready to move into the next part, where silence grows thicker and sleep is no longer far away. And just as we become familiar with the silent language of cats, their wordless signals, small movements and silences richer than sound, it is easy to forget something important. Beneath that softness, beneath the gentle fur and relaxed posture, an older rhythm still exists. A rhythm that does not disappear simply because the environment has grown safer. A rhythm carried from long before cats ever knew humans. It is the rhythm of the hunter. Part 5. The hunter's nature that never disappears. A cat's hunting nature is not a learned behavior. It is etched into the structure of its body. Fast twitch muscle fibers allow cats to burst into motion for very brief, precise moments without wasting energy. This is not endurance over long periods, but the power of absolute concentration in a few decisive seconds. On a psychological level, this is very different from the rhythm of modern human life, where energy is often expended continuously without rest. Cats do not burn energy all day long. They store it, they observe, and when the moment arrives, they act fully, then return to rest. Carl Gustav Jung wrote, in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, energy flows where attention goes. The cat's body illustrates this perfectly. There is no dispersion, no half measures, and it is precisely this wholeness that makes a cat's actions appear smooth, even when those actions involve hunting. The sequence of stalk, pounce, bite, end is an ancient and very clear pattern. There is no prolonged hesitation, no excess cruelty. When it ends, it ends. And once it is over, the cat's body returns almost immediately to a state of calm. This is very different from humans, who often carry the residue of action with them for a long time. Worry, rumination, self-judgment. From a Jungian perspective, this highlights an important distinction between instinct that is fully lived and instinct that is repressed. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "We do not become free by repressing instinct, but by understanding it." Cats do not need to understand their hunting instinct. They live it at the right moment, and therefore it does not haunt them. For listeners before sleep, this is a deeply healing image. It suggests that tension does not arise from instinct itself, but from not allowing instinct an appropriate space. Play in the world of cats is not entertainment. It is training. Every pounce on a toy, every stalking of a moving shadow is a way for the cat's body to keep its nervous system and muscles ready. But what matters is this: after play, the cat rests. It does not prolong stimulation. It does not try to maximize pleasure. Once again, cats offer a rhythm very different from that of humans. Jung noted in The Undiscovered Self, the overdevelopment of any function leads to imbalance. Cats do not allow the hunting instinct to dominate their entire lives. It is activated when needed, then set down. And it is precisely this ability to set it down that allows the body to return to a state of safety. Zoomies, those sudden bursts of wild running around the house, often make humans laugh or feel confused. But on a biological and psychological level, this is a self-regulating mechanism. Accumulated energy is released quickly and efficiently without complicated reasons. Afterward, The cat's body returns to calm, as if the outburst had never occurred. For humans, accumulated energy is rarely released so directly. It is held in thoughts, in tense muscles, in shallow breath. And when night arrives, this unreleased energy is what makes sleep difficult. When listening to stories of zoomies told in a slow rhythm, the listener is not stimulated. Instead, they may recognize that energy needs to move through, not be compressed. Even in a quiet apartment, cats continue to live according to the biological rhythm of a twilight hunter. They are more active when the light softens, when the world becomes less noisy. This rhythm closely resembles the moment when humans enter a half-awake, half-asleep state. Jung called such moments liminal states, threshold states, where the unconscious becomes more alive. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote, "At the threshold of consciousness, the psyche reveals its most archaic forms. Cats, with their crepuscular hunting nature, live naturally within this threshold. And when humans at night listen to stories of this rhythm, their unconscious recognizes something familiar, not because they are hunters, but because they too carry ancient rhythms that existed long before schedules and electric light. What matters is this: a cat's hunting nature does not make it tense. On the contrary, because it is lived in the right rhythm, it does not invade the rest of life. A cat can be both a precise hunter and a creature that sleeps very deeply. There is no contradiction, no inner conflict. Jung wrote, "In the symbolic life, nature does not know inner conflicts. They arise in man when he separates himself from instinct." Part 5 is not meant to make the listener think about hunting or violence. It is meant to reconcile instinct, to show that instinct, when lived in the right place, is not something to fear. When told in a slow, gentle rhythm, the image of the hunter does not stimulate the nervous system. Instead, it soothes it with a sense of completion. As this section closes, what lingers is not images of stalking or pouncing, but something else entirely: the feeling that the body knows how to handle its own energy, that it is not necessary to control every impulse with willpower, that it is possible to trust a deeper biological rhythm. And in that trust, the human body, like the cat's body after a hunt, begins to soften naturally. The heart rate slows, the breath lengthens. Sleep is no longer something to achieve, but something that can happen when nothing is being held back. Cats do not lose their hunting nature, and because they do not lose it, they are at peace. In the night, as you listen to this story, you do not need to lose any part of yourself either. You only need to allow everything to settle into its proper place, and from there, rest. When the cat's hunting nature is no longer seen as aggression, but as an ancient biological rhythm lived in the right place, a very special silence appears. It is the silence after a complete action. No tension remains, no residue lingers. And if we stay within that silence long enough, another question opens, not about what cats do, but about how cats perceive the world. Because hunting, resting, and communicating all begin with how a being senses reality. And here, cats move far beyond the familiar human world. Part 6. A world of perception different from humans. The different world of cats is not built primarily from images. It is not a sharp picture with clear outlines. A cat's world is a sensory map where scent, vibration, and rhythm matter more than form. When a cat enters a space, the first thing it reads is not light but traces of what has been there before. For cats, scent is not a fleeting sensation. It is memory. It is history. It is the story of a place. Each scent carries information about who passed through, when, and in what state. Cats do not need to see in order to know. They remember through scent, and because of this, their world does not disappear when the light goes out. On a psychological level, this is a profound difference from modern humans who rely heavily on vision and often feel disoriented when they cannot see clearly. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, "Sensation tells us that something exists, thinking tells us what it is, feeling tells us its value." Cats live largely in the realm of sensation, pure sensory experience. And this is precisely the level that becomes most active in humans when consciousness begins to fade when sleep approaches. A cat's paws are another channel of perception. Beyond movement, they function as receptors for vibration. Through their paws, cats detect subtle movements in the floor, the air, the presence of others. This allows them to know before they see. A very slight change in the environment is enough to be registered. For humans, vibration is also an ancient bodily language. Heart, rhythm, breathing, muscular tension, or softness, all are forms of vibration. But in waking life, these signals are often drowned out by thought. Only at night, when thinking quiets, do humans begin to hear their own vibrations again. Jung described this process as a return to the body. In The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, he wrote, "The body is the visible manifestation of the psyche." When listeners are guided through the perceptual world of cats, they are not merely learning about another species. They are being reminded of a layer of perception within themselves, a layer that has always been active but often ignored. A cat's scent-based memory also plays a role in orientation. Space is not remembered through coordinates or maps, but through sequences of familiar sensations. This creates a very different sense of home. Home is not an address, but a place where familiar scents remain. That is why sudden environmental changes can unsettle cats, not because they do not understand, but because sensory memory has been disrupted. Symbolically, this closely mirrors how the human unconscious functions. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "Memory is not stored like a book in a library. It is alive. Living memory resides not in events, but in sensations. And this is why seemingly small things, a familiar voice, a steady routine, can provide a powerful sense of safety." Cats are particularly sensitive to human voices and daily rhythms. They do not understand words conceptually, but they recognize states. Pitch, speed, cadence, all are registered. A tense voice causes a cat to keep distance. A low, slow, steady voice invites the cat to stay. This is especially important in the context of listening before sleep. Humans respond in the same way. It is not the content of words, but the rhythm that determines whether the nervous system can let go. Jung emphasized that the psyche responds to form before meaning. In The Symbolic Life, he wrote, "The psyche responds to rhythm and image long before it responds to meaning." The world of cats, then, is a world of rhythm. The rhythm of footsteps, the rhythm of day and night, the rhythm of familiar routines. When rhythm is disrupted, cats become tense. When rhythm is steady, cats are calm. Deep down, humans are no different. But after living too long in a world of schedules and artificial light, they forget their natural rhythm. Part 6, when told slowly, does not aim to teach humans to live like cats, but to recreate a rhythmic environment in which the body can remember. For cats, the world is not only seen, it is remembered through scent movement and rhythm. This makes their world less sharp-edged, less fragmented. When one sense fades, another preserves continuity. At night, when human vision diminishes and space becomes vague, anxiety often arises from not seeing clearly. But when listening to how cats live in a world not dependent on light, the listener may very gently release the need to see everything clearly. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The perceptual world of cats shows that darkness is not emptiness. It is simply another mode of sensing. And when this is accepted, the darkness of night becomes less threatening. As Part 6 closes, what remains is not information about scent or vibration, but a subtle shift from the world of thinking to the world of feeling. And within that shift, the human body begins to do what it has known how to do for a very long time: sink into sleep. No need to see clearly, no need to understand everything, only to feel. And in simply feeling, the world becomes quieter, slower, and safe enough to drift into the next part, where cats move beyond biology into history, culture, and the deeper layers of the human mind. As we enter this non-human sensory world of cats, where scent, vibration, and rhythm replace images and concepts, we begin to notice something very subtle. Cats do not live only in physical space. They also move through symbolic space. They leave not only paw prints on the floor, but impressions within the collective imagination of humanity. And when we listen slowly enough, we discover that throughout human history, in a very quiet way, cats have always been there. Part 7. Cats. Human history and culture. Cats entered history not as tools, but as a presence. In ancient Egypt, cats were revered not merely for their usefulness, but because they represented a deeper order, an order of balance between the wild and the protective. The goddess Bastet, often depicted with the head of a cat, was not a deity of violent power, but of protection, fertility, and domestic rhythm. Here, cats were not domesticated to serve. They were respected for being themselves. At the level of depth psychology, this reflects how ancient humans related to the unconscious. Carl Gustav Jung believed that mythological images are not products of random imagination, but expressions of archetypes. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, "Mythological motifs are not invented, they are experienced." In the context of ancient Egypt, the cat became the image of a very particular archetype, a guardian of the boundary between order and chaos, between daylight and nighttime darkness. When humans lived closer to nature, they recognized this and granted cats a sacred place. But history does not move in a straight line. As Europe entered the Middle Ages, the image of the cat changed. Cats became feared, associated with darkness, witchcraft, and what could not be controlled. This was not a change in cats, but a change in human consciousness. As society grew more closed off from the unconscious liminal images, those that exist between two worlds were pushed to the margins. Jung wrote in Psychology and Religion, "When an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate." The medieval fear of cats reflected fear of the unrecognized unconscious. Cats became the surface onto which humans projected what they did not want to face within themselves: independence, mystery, and the ability to live outside rigid structures. Yet interestingly, even when feared cats remained necessary, mice still appeared. Grain stores still needed protection, and cats once again stayed not because they were loved, but because reality still needed them. On seafaring vessels, cats became indispensable companions, not as symbols, but as living beings amid the uncertainty of the ocean. Here, cats took on a different meaning: stability within motion. Amid waves and storms, cats could move softly, sleep deeply, and hunt effectively. For sailors, this presence not only protected food supplies, but also offered reassurance that a rhythm of life could remain balanced, even as the surrounding world swayed. At a symbolic level, this reflects the psyche maintaining a central axis amid chaos. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, "The symbol is the mediator between the conscious and the unconscious." Cats aboard ships became living symbols without words, of the capacity to coexist with instability without being swept away. In East Asian cultures, the image of the cat takes on yet another tone. The maneki neko, the beckoning cat, appears in shops and homes as a symbol of good fortune. But looked at more deeply, this is not mere superstition. It is a way of personifying stable presence. The beckoning cat does not call loudly. It simply remains there, steady, reminding us that fortune is linked to harmonious rhythm rather than forceful pursuit. In art, cats appear in many forms: curled in Japanese woodblock prints, quiet in Western paintings, or as liminal figures in literature. Yet regardless of form, cats are rarely the central hero. They tend to remain at the edges, observing, simply being present. And it is precisely this peripheral position that allows them to become witnesses to human life. Jung once wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "We are not the masters of our ideas, but their servants." Cats, throughout history and culture, resemble an idea humans have never fully mastered. They appear, disappear, shift meaning across eras, yet never settle into a single role. This is what gives them enduring symbolic strength. They cannot be confined. In modern science, cats enter yet another role, subjects of research in behavior neurology and biology. Yet even here they maintain a certain distance. Cats are not easily trained into rigid patterns. They cooperate when meaning is present, and this very elusiveness once again reminds humans that not everything must be controlled to be valuable. At the deepest level, the fact that cats are both biological beings and long-standing cultural symbols reveals an important truth. Humans do not live with cats only in physical space, but also within the collective unconscious. Cats appear in dreams, in stories, in childhood memories. They carry many layers of meaning without forcing any single interpretation. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, the archetype is essentially an unconscious content that is altered by becoming conscious. Across history, cats have continually been altered by the ways humans perceive them. Yet the symbolic core, the creature of thresholds, of independence, of slow rhythm, remains intact. For listeners before sleep, this section is not meant to deliver a history lesson. It is meant to soothe existential loneliness. Because when we realize that across thousands of years, humans everywhere have recognized something familiar in cats, we understand that vague feelings, silences, and slow rhythms are not personal failures or anomalies. They are part of the human experience. As Part 7 closes, what remains is not a list of eras or symbols, but a quiet feeling, the sense that you are resting within a long current of history and culture, where humans have always sought to understand themselves through the creatures beside them. And within that current, cats remain neither guiding nor explaining, simply present. And that presence, when told slowly in the night, is enough for your mind to stop traveling. You are already inside a story larger than yourself, a story that does not require you to stay awake in order to continue. When cats have passed through human history and culture, having been worshipped, feared, and finally welcomed into everyday life, a very natural movement occurs. Human attention shifts away from symbol and back toward the concrete body. No longer cats in paintings or myths, but cats of flesh and bone carrying real differences. And here, within those differences, another story begins, the story of genetic diversity and the hidden costs that are not always seen. Part 8. Genetic diversity and the invisible costs. Fur, color patterns, folded ears, hairlessness, round eyes, short muzzles, everything that makes humans exclaim how cute is not accidental. Each feature has a clear genetic foundation. Every trait is the result of gene variations maintained or amplified through selection, sometimes natural selection, but increasingly aesthetic selection by humans. Here the story becomes more delicate, because beauty is never neutral. Beauty tends to invite repetition, replication, expansion. And when a particular trait is favored too strongly, it can quietly carry risks for the body that bears it. Some breeds with shortened muzzles may experience respiratory difficulties. Some folded ear breeds are linked to cartilage and joint problems. Some hairless breeds require special skin care to prevent injury. These costs do not appear at first glance. They lie deeper in physiology, sensation, and the long-term rhythm of a cat's life. From Carl Gustav Jung's perspective, every projection carries consequences. When humans project aesthetic ideals onto nature without listening to nature's response, imbalance arises. Jung wrote in Modern Man in Search of a Soul, "Man's worst sin is unconsciousness. This unconsciousness is rarely malicious. It is often goodwill without awareness. The desire for beauty, uniqueness, distinction, these are profoundly human impulses. But when they are not accompanied by understanding of biological limits, they can unintentionally cause suffering to the very beings that are loved. No cat breed is perfect. Some are better suited to certain environments, less suited to others. Some bodies adapt well to cold climates. Others require more care in heat. If perfection exists at all, it lies not in form, but in balance between aesthetics and well-being. In Jungian psychology, balance is a core principle. Jung wrote in The structure and dynamics of the psyche seeks balance, and where balance is lost, symptoms arise. This applies to the human psyche and equally to the feline body. When a trait is pushed too far from biological balance, symptoms emerge: illness, stress, or the need for constant intervention. Part 8 does not judge diversity. On the contrary, it honors diversity as a living reality of nature. But it invites the listener to slow down enough to distinguish between difference that nurtures life and difference that harms life. This boundary is extremely subtle and can only be perceived when we are not rushing. At a deeper level, the genetic story of cats mirrors the story of humans themselves. Humans also carry variations. They too are shaped by aesthetic pressures. They too strive toward admired ideals. And they too often pay invisible prices: stress, fatigue, injury when trying to live according to those ideals. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem." Understanding cats in this sense is not merely about understanding an animal. It is a gentle lesson in accepting bodily limits of cats and of oneself. Not everything beautiful needs to be multiplied. Not every difference needs to be pushed to an extreme. The ethical message of this section is not delivered as a command. It emerges gradually as recognition that love is not only admiration, but responsibility. Responsibility does not mean control. It means listening. Listening to the body, to biology, to small but honest signals. When heard before sleep, this section does not awaken anxiety. Instead, it invites the listener into a quiet state of compassion. Compassion for diverse bodies, compassion for choices made with good intentions, and compassion for oneself in the effort to become more beautiful or more special, sometimes at the cost of inner peace. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, "Compassion is not a moral injunction but a natural consequence of understanding." Part 8 moves toward that understanding without judgment, understanding that allows love without harm, and within this understanding a softness spreads perfectly attuned to the rhythm of night. As this section closes, what lingers is not a list of genetic risks, but a quiet feeling. The sense that wholeness lies in balance, not extremity. The sense that it is possible to stop before going too far. And the sense that understanding, whether of a cat or of oneself, always begins with slowing down. In the night, as your body prepares to rest, this message asks nothing more of you. It simply reminds you that you are already enough, that you do not need to become a better-looking version of yourself to be at peace. That, like the diverse bodies of cats in the world, you are allowed to exist in your own form within your own rhythm. And within this gentle permission, sleep unforced finds its way to you. After recognizing the invisible costs of diversity, the biological limits beneath beauty, a very natural question arises. When we understand that each body carries its own needs and cannot be forced into a single mold, what allows a being to fully be itself? For cats, the answer lies not in grand interventions, but in very small things, repeated steadily, subtle, enough not to disrupt the deeper rhythm of life. Part 9. Care, safety, and subtlety in daily life. Caring for a cat does not begin with action, but with rhythm. Habits and routines, feeding times, sleeping hours, familiar movements throughout the day create an invisible structure of safety. Cats do not need constant change to feel alive. They need consistency to feel calm. In a cat's world, repetition is not boring. It becomes the ground on which the body is allowed to rest. At the level of depth psychology, this is deeply familiar. Carl Gustav Jung believed that the psyche requires structure in order not to fragment. In The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, he wrote, "Order is the precondition of conscious life." For cats, order does not come from discipline but from regular rhythm. And for humans listening to this story before sleep, the image gently reminds us that safety does not have to be built through control, but through familiarity. Water, food bowls, temperature elements that seem purely physical are closely tied to ancient instincts. Cats often avoid drinking water near their food, a behavior rooted in evolutionary memory of contaminated water sources. They prefer warmth-elevated places and positions that allow observation without disturbance. This is not difficult personality but biological memory at work. When this is understood, care no longer means trying to teach a cat to adapt, but adjusting the environment to align with what is already deeply embedded in the cat's body. Jung emphasized that when the environment is suitable, the psyche regulates itself. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, he wrote, "The psyche needs a suitable environment in order to function without distortion." Cats are masters at hiding illness. In the wild, showing weakness can invite danger, and so cats learn silence. Care, therefore, cannot rely on obvious signs. It requires subtle observation, very small changes in routine posture or gaze. Not to provoke worry, but to notice. At a symbolic level, this becomes a gentle reminder for humans as well. Not all pain is spoken, and sometimes what is most needed is not advice but a presence slow enough to notice what is shifting. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved but only outgrown." Watching cats teaches us how to outgrow anxiety, not through quick solutions, but through steady, non-intrusive attention. A home for a cat is not just space, it is a map of choices. Heights to climb, paths to avoid, private corners to retreat into. When cats have choice, they are less tense. When confined to flat, uniform space, restlessness appears, even when all physical needs are technically met. Here, a clear parallel with human life emerges. Humans also need choice, not to do more, but to rest when needed. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, freedom is the capacity to follow one's own inner law. A home that understands cats is not one filled with toys, but one that respects rhythm and instinct. A place where a cat can rise to observe, descend to hide, and is not forced into constant presence. Environmental enrichment through new scents, objects, or very small changes helps cats release accumulated tension. But this enrichment is quiet. It unfolds slowly with pauses so the cat can adapt. This contrasts sharply with the constant stimulation humans often impose on themselves. At a deeper level, Part 9 is not only about caring for cats. It is about the art of creating safe spaces for life. Spaces that do not coerce, do not demand, do not overload. Spaces calm enough for the being within to simply be. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "One does not enlighten another by force. One creates the conditions in which insight may occur." Care, in this sense, is the creation of conditions, not fixing, not improving, but allowing. When this section is heard before sleep, the listener is not urged to do better. Instead, they are invited to gently look at their own space, the bedroom, the light, the temperature, the breath, and ask softly, "What here helps me feel safe?" And when that question is not forced to be answered, the body begins to adjust on its own. Shoulders drop, breathing lengthens, the heartbeat slows. Like a cat in a home that understands it, the human body recognizes that it is allowed to rest. Part 9 closes not with a conclusion, but with a feeling that care is not about doing more, but about doing less of what is unnecessary. That safety is not control, but familiarity. And that subtlety, whether in caring for cats or for oneself, always begins by slowing down. In the night when everything has grown quiet enough, this message asks nothing of you. It simply whispers that you are in a space safe enough to let go. And in that letting go, sleep unnamed has already drawn very near. When we have moved through ideas of care, safety, and subtlety, when we understand that a home that understands cats does not force but makes room, something very natural begins to emerge. No matter how well designed the environment, no matter how stable the routine, one element can never be standardized. That element is individuality. For even within the same safe space, no two cats live in exactly the same way. Part 10. Cats are not copies of one another, each cat. is a closed world carrying its own internal axis. Some cats are left-pawed, others right-pawed. A tiny detail, yet enough to show that even in daily repeated actions, the cat's body chooses its own path. This choice requires no explanation. It is simply how the nervous system and body have organized themselves. A cat's preferences also resist rigid rules. Some enjoy the scent of wood, others avoid it. Some prefer running water, others drink only when the water is perfectly still. Some play intensely, others only observe. These differences are not temperamental moods, but expressions of sensory personality, the way each body meets the world. Even with catnip or pheromones often considered to have universal effects, cats respond very differently. Some become excited, others remain entirely indifferent. This reminds humans that there is no single formula for lived experience. What soothes one individual may mean nothing to another. At the level of depth psychology, this truth is fundamental. Carl Gustav Jung consistently emphasized the uniqueness of each psyche. In Psychological Types, he wrote, "Every individual is an exception to the rule." Cats, in their natural way, live this principle fully. They do not attempt to fit a model. They do not compare themselves to other cats. They simply are themselves, and their bodies know this. A cat's learning style, choices, and decisions cannot be copied. Even when raised in the same environment with the same care, two cats will respond differently to the same situation. One may approach with curiosity, another may retreat. Neither response is right or wrong. Each aligns with the individual's inner axis. Cloning, selective breeding, or training may create bodies that look similar, but they cannot replicate the inner life, because the psyche is not something that can be duplicated by technique. Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, "The psyche is not a thing, but a process. As a process, the psyche never repeats itself exactly. It is shaped through countless small interactions, through sensory memory, through subtle choices that no one, not even the individual, fully grasps." Here, Part 10 opens a deeply healing space for the listener before sleep, because the story of cats at a deeper level becomes a story about humans not needing to be copies of one another, not needing to resemble someone else in order to be accepted, not needing to respond in a standard way to be considered okay. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Cats do not need a human lifetime to achieve this. They live it from the beginning. And for this reason, the presence of cats often carries a sense of permission to be oneself without explanation, without correction." When listening to this section at night, one may gently realize that much of the day's tension comes from comparing oneself to imagined copies, models of how to live, how to respond, how to succeed. Part 10 does not reject self-improvement. It simply asks, improvement toward whom cats do not improve in order to become other cats. They adapt only to live better within their own circumstances. And when circumstances are safe enough, they do not need to change at all. At the Jungian symbolic level, this brings us close to individuation, the process of becoming a whole individual without dissolving into the collective. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious Individuation is not an individualistic self-centeredness, but the fulfillment of the collective. Cats are not individualistic in a separating sense. They still live alongside humans sharing space, but they do not lose their inner axis. And this is what makes the relationship gentle, non-possessive, non-dissolving. Part 10, therefore, is not only an observation about cats. It is a soft whisper to the listener: you do not need to resemble anyone else to be at peace. The smallest differences, how you rest, how you respond, how you enjoy solitude, are not deviations but signs of individuality. When this section is told slowly, evenly in the dim light of night, it does not activate comparison. It dissolves it. The listener's body may feel lighter, as if released from an invisible mold. Cats are not copies of one another, and neither are you. There is no mental replica that needs to be perfected. There is only a process unfolding, slow, singular, and sufficient. In the night, as you hear these words, you do not need to become a better version of yourself. You only need to remain still within the version that is breathing. And in that stillness, like a cat finding a place that fits its body exactly, sleep arrives not as a reward, but as the most natural thing of all. When we reach the depth of difference, when we see that cats are not copies of one another, that each carries an internal axis that cannot be replicated, a natural movement occurs, comparison retreats, templates dissolve, and in that space something very simple appears: rhythm. Not the rhythm of achievement, not the rhythm of goals, but the rhythm of existence. Here, cats are no longer objects to observe, but living reminders of how to exist without haste. Part 11. Cats as a slow rhythm of life. Cats live slowly, not because they are lazy, but because they do not move faster than necessary. They do not accelerate their rhythm to prove anything. They do not react immediately when there is no need. Before acting, a cat observes. Before moving, a cat remains still. And within that stillness, many things take place without any movement at all. At the level of depth psychology, this state is very close to what Carl Gustav Jung described as harmony between consciousness and the unconscious. Jung wrote in, "The symbolic life hurry is not of the devil, it is the devil." This statement does not condemn action. It warns of the disconnection that occurs when humans live so quickly that they can no longer hear their inner rhythm. Cats, by their nature, have never fallen into that state. They do not separate themselves from their biological rhythm. Cats observe a great deal, not in order to analyze, but simply to register. A cat's observation carries no judgment. They do not label things as good or bad. They allow events to pass through their field of perception. And where there is no judgment, the nervous system is not excessively activated. For the listener, before sleep, this image carries a powerful, soothing quality. Much insomnia arises from the mind reacting to every thought, as if it must be handled immediately. Part 11 does not ask the listener to stop thinking. It offers another way observing without reacting. Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, "The ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of intelligence." Cats practice this every day, not as a technique but as a natural state. And when the listener is placed within that same rhythm of observation, the body begins to release its state of vigilance. Cats sleep lightly, yet deeply. They can awaken very quickly if needed, but when they sleep, their bodies truly rest. There is no struggle, no effort to make sleep happen. Sleep arrives when it arrives and leaves when it needs to leave. And because it is never forced, a cat's sleep is deeply restorative. Here, a clear parallel with human experience appears. Modern humans often try to control sleep, counting hours, tracking cycles, worrying when sleep does not come. But sleep, like a cat, does not arrive when summoned. It arrives when it is no longer blocked. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it." Acceptance here is not resignation. It is the cessation of resistance. Cats do not resist sleepiness. They do not resist wakefulness either. They move between these states gently, without friction. Not rushing this may be the greatest lesson cats offer. Cats do not live in the future. They do not pull the present forward. They remain within a moment, just long enough for that moment to complete itself. In Jungian psychology, full presence in the present moment is a condition for self-regulation of the psyche. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The present is the only time in which any task can be fulfilled." Part 11 sets no task at all. It simply invites the listener to remain in the present long enough that no task is required. The closing reminders of this section: not every moment needs reaction. Not every moment needs speed, are not moral instructions. They are permissions. Permission to do nothing. Permission not to become more efficient. Permission to rest. And importantly, this rest does not need to be earned. Cats do not sleep because they have done enough. They sleep because it is the rhythm of life. At its deepest level, Part 11 is not about cats. It is about returning to humans a very ancient right. The right to slow down without reason. The right to exist without a role. The right to rest without guilt. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, the unconscious is not only the source of darkness, but also of light. In the darkness of night, as tired consciousness withdraws, a very gentle light can appear, the light of calm. Cats, through their slow rhythm of life, do not create that light. They allow it to appear. When this section closes, the listener does not need to understand anything further. Analysis has completed its task. What remains is sensation. The sense that you do not need to go anywhere, do not need to do anything, do not need to become someone else. Like a cat that has found a place that fits its body exactly, you are lying in a place that is quiet enough. Breathing lengthens naturally. Shoulders soften. Thoughts do not need to disappear. They simply no longer need to be held. Cats live slowly, and in that slow rhythm, they remind us night does not need to be conquered. Sleep does not need to be achieved. It is enough to be present and to rest, here, right now, as the slow rhythm of the cat spreads to the listener when non-judgmental observation and quiet presence replace the need to react. A very natural door opens. It is the door to sleep. Not sleep as a goal to reach, but as the next movement of letting go. Here, cats are no longer merely symbols of slowness. They become masters of rest, not by teaching with words, but by the way their bodies enter sleep. Part 12. Cats and sleep. Masters of rest. Cats sleep a great deal. But what matters is not the number of hours. It is the quality of letting go. Cats do not collapse into sleep from exhaustion, nor do they try to sleep enough. They sleep when the body signals the need for rest, and awaken when the body is ready. A cat's sleep is not a task on a schedule. It is a natural reflex. For modern humans, this difference is profound. Humans often approach sleep with willpower. I must sleep early, I must sleep enough, I must sleep deeply. And it is precisely that word must that creates tension. Carl Gustav Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, what we resist persists. Cats do not resist wakefulness. They do not force sleepiness. They allow both to come and go. And because there is no resistance, no tension accumulates around sleep. Cats sleep lightly, yet deeply. Their bodies move fluidly between layers of sleep. Deep sleep for restoration, light sleep for readiness, if response is needed. This is not anxiety, it is trust in the body. The body knows when to open and when to close. Conscious supervision is not required. At the level of depth psychology, this reflects a psyche not divided from the body. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, the psyche and the body are not separate entities but two aspects of the same reality. Cats do not separate mind to control body. They are a unified flow. And because of this, their sleep is deeply restorative, even when sleep periods are not long or continuous. By moving between deep sleep and alert sleep, cats teach humans a difficult lesson in modern life. Rest does not equal loss of control. Rest does not mean abandoning awareness. It simply means shifting into another state, softer, gentler, with less interference. Many people fear sleep because it feels like losing control. But cats show that the body can regulate the opening and closing of consciousness without danger. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered, self-man's fear of letting go is often a fear of the unconscious. When listening to the story of cats' sleep in a slow rhythm, the listener is not pressured to fall asleep. Instead, they are gently reintroduced to the idea that letting go is not dangerous. One very important thing about cats, they do not evaluate their sleep. There is no concept of good sleep or bad sleep, no tracking, no worry about consequences. Sleep is simply part of the flow of life, like eating or stretching in the sun. Here, a clear parallel with Jungian psychology emerges. Jung believed much psychological suffering comes from excessive conscious interference in processes that are naturally self-regulating. In Psychological Types, he wrote, "Too much consciousness is often worse than too little." Sleep, like cats, requires less consciousness to occur. It requires trust in deeper bodily and unconscious mechanisms. Part 12, therefore, offers no sleep techniques. It does not teach breathing, counting, or muscle relaxation. It does something far subtler. It dissolves the idea that sleep is a task to be completed. When that idea dissolves, sleep has room to appear. At the symbolic level, cats become images of the unconscious functioning properly. The unconscious does not hurry. It does not need schedules. It responds only to rhythm. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The unconscious is a process, not a static entity. A cat's sleep is such a process, constantly adjusting, always flexible, always appropriate to the present moment." For the listener before sleep, Part 12 carries a very gentle message. You do not need to sleep immediately. You do not need to do anything for sleep to happen. You only need to stop doing the things that block it, worrying, controlling, evaluating. When this section is told slowly in dim light with an even voice, the listener's body may begin to learn again from cats, not through memory but through sensation. Eyelids grow heavier, not because sleep is forced, but because nothing needs to be held. Breathing deepens not because it is adjusted, but because vigilance has faded. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, sleep is a surrender to the deeper layers of the psyche. Cats surrender to this every day, many times a day without ritual. And when humans allow themselves to relearn this, even just tonight, sleep is no longer a luxury. When Part 12 ends, the listener is not asked to close their eyes, not asked to release thoughts. All demands have been removed. What remains is a very gentle permission. Permission for the body to do what it already knows how to do. Sleep like a cat, not for a goal, not for achievement, simply because it is time to rest. And in this absence of effort, like a cat curling into a warm corner, sleep unnamed has already drawn very near. As sleep ceases to be a task, when effort is set down and the body begins to relearn rest the way cats do, consciousness slowly recedes. At that threshold where waking and sleeping are no longer clearly separate, another space opens. A space of images, symbols, and things that need no rational explanation. And in this space, cats appear not as biological beings, but as familiar figures of the unconscious. Part 13. Cats in the human unconscious, a Jungian view. Cats have appeared in the human unconscious for a very long time, longer than recorded history. Not because humans intentionally assign meaning to cats, but because cats embody qualities closely aligned with how the unconscious operates. In Carl Gustav Jung's view, the unconscious does not speak in concepts, but in images. And cats are one such image, alive, flexible, and uncontained. Cats function as an archetype of inner independence. Not independence as separation, but as having an internal axis that is not easily invaded. Cats can be close without dissolving, attached without losing themselves. This quality is rare in modern human psychology, where boundaries between self and external expectation are often blurred. Jung wrote in The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, "The archetype is a tendency to form certain representations of a motif. Cats, as a motif, repeatedly appear when the psyche needs to remind humans of healthy boundaries, not defensive boundaries, but boundaries that allow closeness without loss of center." Cats also move between consciousness and the unconscious. They are awake while the world sleeps, and asleep while the world wakes. They are most active during transitional moments, dusk and dawn times, when boundaries between states thin. These are precisely the moments when the human unconscious speaks most clearly. In Symbols of Transformation, Jung wrote, "The threshold is the place of greatest psychic intensity." Cats live naturally at this threshold, and thus, in dreams, cats often appear not as central characters but as quiet guides, observing, not interfering, yet fully aware of what is unfolding. Cats are also symbols of intuition. They know when to approach and when to withdraw. They do not need clear reasons. Their decisions arise from a deeper perceptual layer, what humans call intuition. In Jungian psychology, intuition is a psychological function equal to thinking, feeling, and sensation. Jung wrote in Psychological Types, intuition is perception via the unconscious. When cats appear in dreams, they often signal that the psyche is inviting trust in felt knowing rather than exhaustive analysis. But this invitation is gentle, never forced, never dramatic. Cats are also symbols of a gentle darkness. Not the darkness of threat, but of what has not yet been illuminated or named. Cats are not afraid of darkness. They move within it naturally, as if it were simply another condition of light. Jung wrote in Aeon, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Cats help humans do this, not through confrontation, but through familiarity. Darkness with a cat present becomes less frightening. It becomes a place for observation, for rest, for listening. It is no accident that cats appear so often in art, in paintings, poetry, stories as marginal figures. They rarely act decisively. They watch, they remain. And this marginal position allows them to witness everything without being pulled in. In The Symbolic Life, Jung wrote, "The symbol does not explain. It points beyond itself." Cats in the unconscious do not explain anything. They simply indicate that another layer is active, a layer that does not require language. Part 13 does not invite the listener to understand cats academically. It invites recognition of the cat within oneself, the part that knows when to step back, the part that does not react immediately, the part that can be alone without loneliness, the part that can be in darkness without fear. When listening to this section before sleep, the listener is not led into complex symbolic analysis. Instead, they are allowed simply to feel the image. A cat in a dream, a cat by a window, a cat watching the night. No interpretation needed. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections. Dreams are the guiding words of the soul. And sometimes those guiding words are not words at all, but a very quiet image. In that role, the cat does not tell you what to do. It simply stays close enough that you do not feel lost, far enough that you remain yourself. When part 13 closes, what remains is not knowledge of archetypes or the collective unconscious. What remains is a soft sense of reflection, perhaps familiarity, perhaps safety, perhaps an image fading as eyelids grow heavy. Here, the content has fully left the realm of knowing. It has entered the realm of experience. And when that experience is quiet enough, undemanding enough, sleep long prepared no longer meets resistance. Cats do not appear to guide the way. They appear so that you no longer need a path. And in that gentle darkness, you do not need to understand anything more. You only need to be there and allow sleep to arrive on its own. As cats have appeared as images of the unconscious beings of thresholds, intuition, and gentle darkness, our attention naturally returns to ordinary moments. No longer cats in dreams or symbols, but cats in the room late at night. There, no interpretation is needed. No mystery is required. Only one very soft question remains. Why, at certain moments, does a cat choose to stay near you? Part 14, when a cat chooses to stay by your side, not by chance. Cats do not stay close to humans by accident, yet the reason behind their choice is also not the same as how humans usually explain affection. When a cat lies near you, in quiet moments when your breathing is steady, when your body has softened, this is not a response to your actions but to your state. Cats are not drawn to words or gestures. They are drawn to the stability of the emotional field. When you are tense, cats tend to keep their distance. This is not rejection, nor is it a lack of attachment. It is a very honest sensitivity. Cats perceive subtle changes in breathing movement and the energy of a space, and they respond by protecting their own balance. At the level of depth psychology, this is deeply significant. Carl Gustav Jung emphasized that the psyche responds to states rather than intentions. In The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, he wrote, "The psyche reacts to situations, not to explanations." Cats live entirely by this principle in a very natural way. They do not need to be persuaded. They only need to feel safe. The place a cat chooses also speaks volumes. A high place for observation, a warm place for rest, a place saturated with familiar scent for reassurance. When a cat chooses to lie beside you, it is not merely because you are familiar, but because you have become part of that safe space. No promises are needed, no commitments, only consistency. This carries a profoundly healing effect for humans. Many human relationships are built on effort: what to say, what to do, how to become someone worthy of closeness. But the relationship with a cat is different. You cannot try to be chosen. You can only be still. And when you are still long enough, the choice, if it comes naturally. Jung wrote in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, "Where love rules, there is no will to power. The bond between cats and humans does not operate through power or obligation. It operates through trust. Trust that possession is unnecessary. Trust that control is not required. Trust that presence alone is enough." Cats do not love in the way humans often define love. They do not seek constant validation. They do not demand attention. But when a cat stays, that staying is complete, not tentative, not experimental. It is a quiet form of trust, a kind of attachment without clinging. From a Jungian perspective, this is a beautiful image of a healthy relationship, one in which two individuals retain their own inner axis while remaining close. Jung wrote in, "The archetypes and the collective unconscious relationship exists when two individuals meet without losing themselves. Cats do not lose themselves when they stay beside you. And you do not need to lose yourself for a cat to stay." This balance creates a unique warmth, warm without suffocation, close without intrusion. Part 14 does not aim to explain feline behavior through pure science. It seeks instead to soothe a deeply human fear, the fear that we must try very hard to deserve closeness. Cats, through their quiet choosing, whisper the opposite. When you stop trying, you become easier to be near. When listening to this section before sleep, the listener is not drawn into analysis. Instead, they are invited back to a very simple memory, the feeling of someone being present without demands, without judgment, without pressure, simply there. Jung wrote, "In the symbolic life, true companionship rests on the acceptance of solitude. Cats are companions in precisely this sense. They can stay beside you, and they can leave without the relationship breaking apart. This flexibility creates deep safety, safety that does not rely on fear of loss." As part 14 approaches its end, the rhythm slows. Explanations become less necessary. What remains is sensation, the feeling of being chosen without having to do anything. The feeling that your presence, just as it is enough for another being to feel at ease. And in this feeling, the listener is prepared for the deepest lullaby. For nothing carries a person into sleep more gently than the sense of being accepted without conditions. If tonight there is no cat beside you, that is also fine. The message of this part does not lie in a specific behavior, but in the ability to be at ease with yourself, as if you too are being chosen by your own quietness. A cat chooses to stay by your side, not by chance. And you do not need to become someone else to deserve that closeness. Just remain still and allow warmth, real or remembered, to spread slowly. When a cat chooses to stay near you, not out of obligation, not because you did something right, a very rare feeling appears. It is the feeling of being accepted without effort, without self-presentation, without explanation. And when that feeling lasts long enough, quietly enough, it naturally leads to another state: deep rest. Here there are no more whys, no analysis of right or wrong, only a very gentle invitation tonight: live like a cat. Part 15. Living like a cat tonight. Living like a cat. Tonight does not mean imitating behavior. It is not a technique. It is a permission. Permission for the body to release its controlling role. Permission for the mind not to react to every passing thought. Permission for life's rhythm to slow down without reason. Cats do not control their sleep. They do not decide, "Now I must sleep." They listen to a very small signal from within the heaviness of the eyelids, the softening of muscles, the natural urge to curl inward. And when that signal arrives, cats do not resist. In depth psychology, this is a crucial image. Carl Gustav Jung wrote in The Structure and Dynamics of the Psyche, "What we resist persists." Humans often lose sleep, not because they lack sleepiness, but because they resist loss of control. Consciousness insists on deciding even when the body is ready to rest. Cats do not do this, and so their sleep arrives as gently as water flowing into a hollow. No rushing, this is the second reminder cats offer us at night. Cats do not hurry to sleep, but they also do not delay it. They do not prolong wakefulness, nor do they push drowsiness. They let the moment complete itself. Jung wrote in The Symbolic Life, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." This is not moral advice. It is a description. Nature operates by rhythm, not pressure. Cats, as creatures deeply aligned with nature, live by this rhythm. And when humans allow themselves to step out of the pressure to fall asleep now, sleep unnamed finds its way. You do not need to react to every thought. This may be the greatest gift of this final section. Thoughts will still arise. Images, memories, questions, they drift like clouds. Cats do not chase clouds. They do not cling to them. They lie there and allow the sky to change. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung wrote, "Thoughts are like animals in the forest. They come and go. Humans often do the opposite, chasing every thought, trying to understand and resolve it. But tonight the cat invites you to try another way. You do not need to push thoughts away. You only need not to stand up and follow them. Just remain still, like a cat sleeping on a windowsill." This image matters. A windowsill is a place in between inside and outside, between light and darkness, between waking and sleeping. Cats choose such places not by strategy, but because they allow multiple states to coexist. Jung called such spaces liminal spaces. In Symbols of Transformation, he wrote, "At the threshold, consciousness relaxes its grip. At this threshold, you do not need to decide whether you will sleep or stay awake. You only need to be there. And in this non-decision, sleep often arrives more deeply than through any effort." Part 15 is no longer storytelling. It is accompaniment. The voice no longer leads. It walks slowly beside you. By this point, all explanations have fulfilled their role. What remains is sensation, the sensation of being still without pressure. Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The soul demands rest, not answers. Tonight you do not need more answers. You do not need to understand why you are tired. You only need to allow the body to do what it has known how to do for a very long time: rest." Living like a cat tonight means no need to control the breath, no need to adjust thoughts, no need to reach any special state. Just allow the bed to support the weight of your body. Allow the breath to find its own rhythm. Allow the eyelids to grow heavy when they want to. Cats do not sleep to become better tomorrow. They sleep because it is time to sleep, and so do you. In this moment, you do not need to prepare for tomorrow. You do not need to complete anything. You do not need to become anyone else. You only need to be present like a sleeping cat, without purpose, without plan, without worry. Jung once wrote a very short, very quiet sentence in The Symbolic Life. "In silence, the soul speaks." Tonight, you do not need to listen to those words. Just allow silence to do its work. And if sleep does not arrive immediately, that is fine. Cats do not force themselves to sleep either. They simply lie still. And often stillness alone is already a very deep form of rest. Living like a cat tonight is not a goal. It is a return. A return to a slow rhythm. A return to a body that knows how to rest. A return to safety without conditions. On the windowsill of the night, you do not need to go anywhere. Just remain still and allow sleep like a very familiar cat to find its way to you and lie down beside you. At this point, our journey has gone very far and also very close. Far because we have touched history, biology, symbolism, and the deep layers of the unconscious. Close because in the end, everything returns to something very simple: how a body is allowed to rest. Cats do not teach humans with words. They offer no philosophy, demand no change, promise no better tomorrow. They simply exist in their own rhythm, and that presence, unhurried, unforced, becomes a deep reminder to the human mind. Rest does not need to be earned, and sleep is not a reward for a sufficiently productive day. Throughout these sections, cats have appeared at times as refined biological beings, at times as symbols of the unconscious, at times as quiet companions choosing to stay near you in moments of calm. But if all of this were to be gathered into one final image, it would likely be the image of an ordinary sleeping cat, unaware that it is doing it right, unconcerned with whether its sleep is deep enough. Humans somehow have forgotten this ordinariness. We try to sleep, try to relax, try to let go. And it is the very act of trying that makes everything difficult. Cats remind us that there is no action called letting go. Letting go happens when holding stops. If you still hear your thoughts, that is fine. Thoughts are not the enemy of sleep. Only clinging to them causes fatigue. Let thoughts pass like distant footsteps in a hallway you do not need to get up to check. If your body is not fully relaxed yet, that is also fine. Rest is not a perfect state. It is a wide spectrum. And as long as you are drifting toward lighter, that is enough. Like a cat, you do not need to sleep immediately. You only need to remain still. And very often, being allowed to remain still without demand, without evaluation, is already a deep form of rest. Perhaps tonight you will fall asleep quickly. Perhaps tonight you will drift more slowly. Both are okay, because the purpose of night is not efficiency. The purpose of night is to restore the balance stretched thin during the day, and you do not need to do anything for that balance to return. The body knows the way. The unconscious knows the way. Sleep like a cat knows when to come and knows when to stay long enough. If there is one final permission this series wishes to leave you with, it is this: you are allowed not to complete today. You are allowed to leave things unresolved. You are allowed to rest even if you do not yet feel worthy. The world will continue without you guarding it. Tomorrow will come whether you prepare or not. And tonight, you may set that burden down. If it helps you feel at ease, imagine that somewhere nearby a cat is sleeping, doing nothing, dreaming nothing grand, simply breathing evenly. And in that breathing there is no hurry. You do not need to become a cat. You only need to relearn something very old, that rest is natural. Right now you do not need to listen to me anymore. You do not need to remember what you have heard. The story has completed its task. The rest sleep needs no guidance. Sleep well. May your body rest in its natural rhythm. May your mind be calm without effort. And if sleep arrives slowly tonight, may you still feel safe within that slowness. Good night.